English translation: in the Anaheim Convention Center, on a November morning 7,000 people had taken their seats. The year was 1999. The clock read 9:45. The air outside was cold. The air inside was even colder. This was a tournament, but it was not just a tournament, it was an announcement. After a year of silence, a man wanted to be reborn right where he had always belonged. At that moment, that man was sitting in the fourth row at the back of the hall, wearing a gray woolen jacket. His cap was pulled down low, his shoes were plain, there was no rush in his eyes, no desperation. Up front, near the doorway, stood a man named Mikhail Voronov. Voronov was 24 years old. He stood 6 feet 4 inches tall and weighed 210 pounds. He came out of the Soviet Union's sports academy, a system where creating champions was like a flood, one after another, without stopping. Voronov had won 37 matches over the last 3 years. 37. He hadn't lost a single one. Just one. His technique was a thing apart. His speed had been researched, logged and recorded on tape. He was a complete fighter. The judges had been drawn there that day solely because of Voronov. It was his third world-level appearance in a single year, and so far no one had managed to turn their face away from him. In the next 4 minutes, he would make a decision that would become the biggest mistake of his life up to that point. This decision would take 7 seconds. Just 7. And those 7,000 people, trained fighters, coaches, champions, commentators, who were busy with their own conversations at the time, had no idea they were about to witness a moment in martial arts history that would be spoken of for decades to come. But first, it is important to understand that Mikhail Voronov wasn't just a name. Voronov's father was a Soviet kickboxing instructor. He had stood his son on the mat at the age of 5. By 10, Voronov had completed over 200 sparring sessions, documented ones. There was no counting the undocumented ones. Speaking of his physical capabilities, his reflex speed had been measured in a laboratory. 0.14 seconds. The average professional fighter's speed is 0.19 seconds. He was a different breed of human. His reach was a problem for others. When a 6'4" man extended his arm, he didn't just pick something up, he ruined a dispensary. That morning at the tournament, Voronov's first 2 matches had taken less than 10 minutes combined. He had finished both opponents with clean professional technique. Not ruthless, just clean, just complete. Just as the break before noon was about to happen, Voronov picked up the microphone. The tournament director hadn't given it to him. Nobody had asked him to. But Voronov was a man who had learned his whole life that the world belongs to those who take it, so he took it. He said, and he said this in English, in careful, measured English, so no one would need to translate. In this generation of martial arts, no retired hero comes back. Why? Because they know that time only moves forward, not backward. If someone is truly so great that they want to come back after retiring, then let them come here. I am here. I can wait for anyone. A hush fell over the 7,000 people. Only one loud breath was drawn, by the tournament director, whose coffee cup was still held mid-air, half raised, half not. Voronov set the microphone back down and walked toward his chair. And at the back of the hall in the fourth row, a man adjusted his cap. He looked up, then he looked down. Then he stood up. The man who stood up in the back row was 55 years old at the time. His height was 5 feet 9 inches. His weight was 123 pounds, and he had an old injury in his lower back from 1991, on a stunt gone wrong. He was wearing a gray jacket that day. He wore plain street shoes. He looked like a man who had come to watch a colleague's video recording after breakfast. Nobody knew he was there, except for the fact that a friend had called him. An old friend. A tournament director named Bob Wall. That man was Chuck Norris. This was the first time since retiring that he was seen at a public martial arts event. The first time in 7 months. He hadn't told anyone he was coming. Aside from Bob Wall, no one knew. There were 7,000 people in the hall, and perhaps only 30 could recognize him at that moment. A man about whom America had once written. A man whose belt achievements to films formed a distinct chapter in martial arts, was sitting today in a gray jacket in the back row, and no one noticed. No one noticed. Until Voronov grabbed the microphone. Before standing up, Chuck Norris took off his jacket. He folded it once, a clean, deliberate fold. He placed it on the seat fold. Then he took off his cap. He folded that too, with one hand, without looking. He set it on top of the jacket. It was a sequence of actions devoid of haste. No performance, no need. He then stood up and began to walk. In the first row, a woman touched her husband. In the second row, a coach stopped his pencil mid-motion. In the third row, a retired Marine Corps instructor named Dave Shipman straightened his arms on both sides and said nothing. Then a wave rolled through, that kind of wave that doesn't rise from the seashore, but from within a person when they recognize something, row by row, in a straight line, from one mouth to the next, from one pair of eyes to another. He had already lost. He just didn't know it yet. It took Chuck Norris 26 seconds to reach the floor. During those 26 seconds, Voronov was back at his spot, drinking water, talking to a trainer. He didn't turn around. Not once. Then he heard it, not a sound, but that thing that reaches awareness first. A shift in the atmosphere. He turned around. Norris was now at the edge of the floor, 5 feet away, and Voronov knew. This was the very man whose face he had seen in magazines 3 years ago when he was in the Soviet Union, back when this was just a name from a different world. Voronov said nothing for a second. Then he said, "I respect you. But I believe that time is one thing that belongs to no one." Chuck Norris said nothing. He stood there. His eyes were on Voronov's face. His hands were at his sides, his shoulders were relaxed, the kind of relaxation that doesn't come from practice, it comes from age. Then he said, "All right," 2 words, just 2. His tone was flat, neither high nor low, as if confirming a grocery list. The tournament director, whose name was Alan Chong, watched from his table as he stood up. He looked at the clock. He looked at the mat. He looked at Norris. He looked at Voronov. Then, and he did this deliberately, he raised his hand toward 2 officials. A gesture, an old signal understood in mature competition halls. Clear the floor. A fight, whether in a tournament or a gym, is about one thing and one thing only: distance. This was written by a journalist after the tournament. And written because he had witnessed that day firsthand. He wrote, "A fight is not a matter between 2 people. A fight is a deal, an ongoing negotiation over how far someone is standing, and when that distance will change and when it will not." Voronov's game plan was clear. He was well trained enough to be read. He was a long-range fighter with a reach advantage. He wanted to keep the distance open, 7 feet, 8 feet. He wanted to operate from the exact range most opponents couldn't reach. He wanted to use his speed, use his youth. He wanted this to be a race. The problem was, Norris had never participated in races. In the first second, Voronov stepped forward. From a distance of 7 feet, he threw a jab, right hand fast straight from the shoulder. Level, it was clean. It was accurate. It was right where it was supposed to be. It missed. Norris didn't move backward. He took a tiny step, left foot in, right foot stable. That movement was a sliver of spared space, out of the line of the punch. So subtle a movement that if you were watching you might think your eyes were playing tricks on you. Alan Chong placed both hands flat on the table. He couldn't speak what he was thinking, but his eyes said it all. In the second, Voronov recalculated the distance. It was a trained reaction. He was a smart fighter. Remember, he took a half step inside and delivered a low kick right leg, sweep angle, designed to take out the base. He had practiced this 100 times. He had logged this. He knew it worked. Norris's left foot, just the left foot, shifted inward by an inch. The kick cut through thin air. It met nothing. Dave Shipman, who was now standing near his seat, clenched his fist. No sound came out. Just a physical reaction born of informed observation. In the third second, Voronov did something he had never done before in a match. He changed his game plan. In real time. And this was a mistake, not because changing a game plan is wrong, but because the thing that forced him to change it was panic. And panic doesn't go where you want it to go. He tried a combination, jab, cross, front kick, 3 moves, fast, chained together. It was a sequence he had trained for 3 years. He knew when it worked. It worked when the opponent either reacted or froze. Norris neither reacted nor froze. He simply wasn't where the combination needed him to be. And the 4th second, what changed on the floor was the air itself. It wasn't measurable. It was felt. A cameraman, whose name is irrelevant here, lowered his camera. Just for a second. He did it manually, without thinking, as if trying to see something without a lens in the way. In the 5th second, Norris moved for the first time. He came forward, just 2 steps. But 2 steps were all it took. He stepped inside Voronov's range, and for Voronov this was a problem, not because he couldn't handle close combat, but because this specific closing of distance ruined his natural angle. In the 6th second, Norris did one thing, just one. He delivered a short inside strike with his right hand, the kind of strike that doesn't just hit the surface but goes into the surface, reaching right up to the ribs, stopping right when it needs to stop. It stopped, 1 inch away. Voronov's body responded by doing what training had taught it. It sat down. Not a controlled descent, just a body that had processed the signals. He was on the floor. Norris was standing. His hands were still at his sides. There were 7,000 people in the tournament hall. In that moment, not one of them spoke. No one coughed. No chair scraped. That silence was something witnesses kept talking about for the next 6 years. Norris bent down. He extended his hand. Voronov looked at the hand. Then he looked at Norris's face. Between the two of them there was something that couldn't be put into words, something that only happens in that moment when one human being hears from another. Without words, I hold no opinion of you. I was simply there. Norris said something. The voice was so quiet that only Voronov could hear it. Nobody else. There was no microphone, no recording. What those words were has never been confirmed to this day. Different witnesses heard different things, or thought they heard them. One said Norris said, "Your technique is solid. Never give it up." Another said he simply said, "Get up." Shipman, who was the closest, said Norris said something in Voronov's native language, but Shipman knew nothing of that language, so he wasn't sure. What was confirmed 3 days later was this. Voronov took the hand. He stood up. He stood in front of Norris and said something, and he said it in English. In clear English he said, "I was wrong." 3 words. And he didn't address the floor, the tournament director or the rest of the people. It was meant only for Norris. Just that one man. Norris nodded once. No other response. No comment. No gesture. Then he turned and walked away. As Norris passed the back of the hall, Dave Shipman stepped forward and placed his hand on Norris's shoulder. For a second. Just one. It wasn't a salutation, not a congratulation. It was one man telling another yes. I saw it. Norris didn't stop there. He kept walking. In the 4th row he picked up his jacket. Then his cap. Both were exactly as they were left unfolded. He sat down and picked up the program sheet again, upon which he had already written some notes. Over the next 4 days, the story of what happened in Anaheim didn't stay in Anaheim. There is a rule in the martial arts world that no one writes down, but everyone knows. The direct path of an absolute moment begins in a gym, moves to another gym, enters a tournament director's email, goes to a columnist, gets printed in ink and lands in a trainer's class. Bob Wall wrote a letter, handwritten, physical, stamped, to an old colleague in Los Angeles. Wall wrote, "That morning, I saw the very thing I believed in, but had never seen in such clear detail. That a man who possesses the real thing is never outpaced by time. Time is outpaced by him." That letter, a copy of which Wall still holds today, was read, passed along, talked about. And with every retelling of this story, something shifted slightly, the crowd size, the fight duration. Voronov's exact words. This wasn't because people were liars, it was because when a human hears something that feels true, they make it a little truer, a little more complete, a little more of what they wanted to say. The final and most reliable version of this story existing today comes from Shipman's notes, written in his diary at his hotel that night. Those notes are reliable because Shipman never showed them to anyone. They came to light 3 years later when a journalist interviewed him about something else, and Shipman pulled out that diary. In his notes from that day, he wrote, "Today, I didn't see a man coming back from retirement. I saw a man prove that retiring and away are two entirely different things." Mikhail Voronov remained active for 4 more years after this. He won 3 more titles. He retired in 2003, on his own accord on his own terms. In an interview that year, when asked about that day, he simply said, "He was better than me. There is no shame in that. There is only one truth in it. It was a fork in the road moment, that moment when a person decides what to do with defeat." Voronov chose humility, and that wasn't the hardest thing in his career. The titles were. It was the most important thing. Chuck Norris appeared at another public event months later. When that day was mentioned in an interview, he said, and this is a documented quote, "I only went there to meet a friend. Whatever happened happened because someone chose to do something. I merely responded." That is the clearest thing in this entire story. After 7,000 people, trained athletes, tournament directors, cameras, and decades of gossip, a man who possesses real strength never announces his strength. He is simply there, and when the need arises, he responds. Real capability is not what gets announced. Real capability is what shows up when someone else is making the announcement.